The story of the mind-body connection is as old as human curiosity itself. Long before the rise of modern medicine and neuroscience, people sensed that thoughts, feelings, and physical health were somehow intertwined. Ancient healers noticed how worry could weaken the body, while joy and love seemed to uplift it. Though they lacked the vocabulary of modern science, their insights laid the groundwork for a concept that continues to intrigue physicians, philosophers, and everyday people: the mysterious interplay between mind and body. At its core, the mind-body connection refers to the dynamic relationship between a person's mental and emotional experiences and their physical health. Modern definitions describe it as the link between our thoughts, emotions, psychological states, and how our bodies feel and function. This idea is now widely accepted in fields ranging from holistic medicine to contemporary psychology, but its roots stretch back thousands of years. Ancient traditions such as Chinese medicine and Ayurveda recognize the unity of mind and body in both health and illness. Practitioners in these cultures believed that emotional harmony, social connection, and a balanced lifestyle were as vital to well-being as any herbal remedy or physical intervention. Hippocrates, the Greek physician often called the father of medicine, held that health was a delicate balance between mind, body, and environment. Centuries later, figures like Galen in Rome and Maimonides in the Middle Ages echoed similar views, emphasizing the importance of emotional health and even happiness in physical well-being. Despite these early insights, Western thought eventually took a different path. By the 17th century, the philosophical landscape was transformed by René Descartes. Descartes famously articulated the notion of dualism, the idea that mind and body are fundamentally different substances. For Descartes, the mind was immaterial, the seat of consciousness and thought, while the body was a physical machine. He posed a central question that still puzzles scientists and philosophers: how do these two distinct substances interact? How does an intangible thought or feeling influence tangible flesh? This so-called mind-body problem became a cornerstone of philosophical debate. Dualists like Descartes argued that mental and physical realms were separate but somehow able to communicate. Others, known as monists, claimed that only one substance existed. Either everything was mental or everything was physical. These debates led to further questions. If the mind is not material, how can it cause physical effects, like a racing heart when anxious, or a calm sense of well-being after a reassuring conversation? Conversely, how can physical changes in the body, such as injury or illness, shape our thoughts and feelings? The dualist perspective influenced Western medicine for centuries, creating a tendency to treat mental and physical health separately. Yet, even as this divide took hold in academic thought, physicians could not ignore the evidence accumulating in their clinics. By the 17th century, there were already empirical observations linking madness to changes in the brain. Doctors noticed that certain injuries or illnesses could alter a person's mood, cognition, or behavior. These early findings suggested that the boundaries between mind and body were more porous than theory allowed. As centuries passed, the scientific understanding of the mind-body connection evolved. In the 19th century, thinkers like John Hewlings Jackson built on the work of their predecessors, further exploring how mental and physical processes might interact. The rise of psychiatry and neurology brought new empirical tools. Scientists began to map the ways emotional distress could precipitate physical symptoms and how physical interventions could change mental states. Yet, the core mysteries remained. What, exactly, is the mind? How does it emerge from or relate to the physical structures of the brain? Modern science approaches these questions with a blend of humility and curiosity. While the precise mechanisms connecting mind and body are still not fully understood, research increasingly supports the idea that the relationship is both real and profoundly important. Today, the concept of the mind-body connection is often framed within the biopsychosocial model. This perspective, now prevalent in many branches of medicine and psychology, recognizes that biological, psychological, and social factors all contribute to health and illness. No one element can be considered in isolation. The bidirectional nature of this connection is especially striking. Mental states such as stress, anxiety, or happiness can trigger physical responses throughout the body. For example, chronic stress is known to elevate blood pressure, weaken the immune system, and disrupt sleep. Conversely, physical factors like illness, injury, or even posture can have profound effects on mood and cognition. A simple act such as taking a deep breath or engaging in gentle movement can sometimes shift our emotional experience in noticeable ways. More recently, scientific research has begun to quantify these effects. Studies have shown that positive emotions, strong social connections, and a sense of purpose are linked to better physical health outcomes. On the other hand, Persistent negative emotions and social isolation are associated with a higher risk of disease and even early mortality. The mechanisms underlying these effects are complex and not yet fully understood, but they likely involve intricate interactions between the nervous system, hormones, and the immune system. The enduring mystery of consciousness, how subjective experience arises from neural activity, remains one of the deepest questions in science. Despite advances in neuroscience, no one has yet explained how the electrochemical activity of the brain gives rise to thoughts, feelings, or the self that each of us experiences. This hard problem of consciousness, as philosophers sometimes call it, ensures that the mind-body connection will remain a subject of fascination and debate for generations to come. While the scientific story is still unfolding, the practical implications of the mind-body connection are already clear. A growing body of evidence supports the value of mind-body medicine, which emphasizes the importance of love, good social connections, and happiness in maintaining health. These findings echo the wisdom of the ancients, who recognized that caring for both mind and body is essential for a flourishing life. Listeners might wonder why this topic inspires such passionate debate and ongoing inquiry. Part of the answer lies in the sheer complexity of human experience. The mind is not simply a product of the brain, nor is the body merely a vessel for thoughts and emotions. Instead, the two are engaged in a continuous, dynamic dance. Our emotions can manifest as physical sensations: tightness in the chest, butterflies in the stomach, tears of joy or sorrow. Likewise, a healthy body can foster a sense of optimism, resilience, and well-being. Despite centuries of study, significant gaps in our understanding remain. Scholars continue to debate the precise mechanisms of mind-body interaction, and current scientific models cannot fully account for all the ways in which mental and physical states influence each other. Nevertheless, the consensus is growing. The mind and body are deeply connected, each shaping and reflecting the other in profound and often unexpected ways. In exploring the foundations of the mind-body connection, we find ourselves at a crossroads of history, philosophy, and science. Ancient wisdom and modern research converge on a single truth. To understand ourselves, we must consider both the tangible and the intangible, the seen and the unseen, the mind and the body. This holistic perspective, once sidelined, is now returning to the center of health and healing. As research continues to shed light on this relationship, we are reminded that caring for our minds is inseparable from caring for our bodies, a lesson as vital today as it was to the healers of ages past. Imagine a moment of sudden fear. Your heart pounds, your palms sweat, and your thoughts race. In that instant, a cascade of biological events unfolds beneath your awareness, seamlessly knitting together mind and body. This interplay, once shrouded in mystery, is now being mapped by science in vivid detail. The biological mechanisms behind the mind-body connection reveal a sophisticated web of communication networks, where thoughts, emotions, and physiological processes flow into one another through the nervous, endocrine, and immune systems. Each system speaks its own chemical language, yet all are entwined, exchanging information that shapes health, behavior, and experience. Recent research using advanced brain imaging has revealed just how physically intertwined the mind-body connection truly is, down to the architecture of the brain itself. Studies show that regions of the brain responsible for movement, those that direct a hand to wave or a foot to tap, are not isolated from higher mental functions. Instead, these motor areas are closely linked with networks involved in thinking, planning, and even involuntary processes such as heartbeat regulation. This anatomical integration suggests that the distinction between mental and physical is far less clear-cut than once believed. The same circuits that allow us to plan a complex task or imagine a future scenario are woven together with those that control the body's most basic functions, such as breathing or digestion. In effect, the brain is built to braid together intention, action, and bodily state. Looking deeper, scientists have mapped how emotional arousal, those moments when we feel a surge of excitement or distress, can ripple almost instantly from brain to body. When you experience a strong emotion, specialized neural pathways are activated, triggering physiological changes. This rapid communication ensures the body can prepare for action, whether that means fleeing danger or embracing a loved one. Neural responses spark the release of chemical messengers that affect heart rate, muscle tension, and even the immune cells that patrol for threats. The result is a tightly coordinated response, aligning the body's resources with the mind's perceptions and intentions. This process is not one way. Observing another person's actions or emotional state can evoke changes in your own body and mind thanks to specialized neural systems. For instance, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies have identified what is known as the mirror neuron system, a network that becomes active both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else doing the same. This system, together with the limbic regions of the brain that process emotion, enables a kind of empathic resonance. Watching a friend stub their toe might make you wince, not just emotionally but physically, as your brain and body simulate their experience. Through these neural mechanisms, perception, intention, and bodily action are interwoven, grounding social understanding and emotional attunement in biology. To understand how the mind speaks to the body and how the body in turn speaks back, it helps to picture the three great regulatory systems: the nervous, endocrine, and immune systems. Each has its own way of sensing, signaling, and responding, yet none works in isolation. The nervous system, composed of a vast network of neurons, is the body's fast-acting communication highway. It uses electrical impulses and neurotransmitters, specialized chemical messengers, to relay information with speed and precision. Neurotransmitters are released at the tiny gaps between neurons, called synapses, and each type has a distinct effect. Some, like dopamine and serotonin, play central roles in mood, motivation, and cognition, while others, such as acetylcholine or norepinephrine, influence attention, arousal, and movement. Through this system, thoughts and emotions are transformed into neural signals that can quickly influence muscles, organs, and even the immune system. In contrast, the endocrine system communicates in a slower, more diffuse manner. It relies on hormones, chemical messengers secreted by glands such as the pituitary, thyroid, or adrenal glands, which enter the bloodstream and travel throughout the body. Hormones regulate a wide array of functions, from growth and metabolism to stress responses and reproductive cycles. Importantly, the brain and endocrine system are locked in a continuous feedback loop. The hypothalamus, a small but crucial brain region, acts as a command center, receiving information from the rest of the brain and orchestrating hormonal release. For example, when stress registers in the mind, the hypothalamus signals the pituitary to release hormones that spur the adrenal glands to produce cortisol, a key hormone involved in the stress response. This hormone, in turn, affects brain function, mood, and immune activity, closing the loop between mind and body. The immune system, often thought of as a defensive army against infection, is now recognized as a sophisticated communicator in its own right. Recent research has revealed that immune organs, such as the spleen and lymph nodes, receive direct nerve input, meaning the nervous system can modulate immune activity in real time. Moreover, the immune system itself sends chemical signals, such as cytokines, which can travel to the brain and alter mood, cognition, and behavior. This crosstalk is so intricate that scientists now refer to a neuroendocrine immune network, a triad working in concert to maintain health and respond to challenges. The interconnectedness of these systems is not just anatomical but functional. For example, emotions can shape immune responses almost immediately. Studies show that emotional states such as stress or joy can alter how vigorously immune cells patrol the body, how quickly they respond to invaders, and even which genes they express. Conversely, changes in immune signaling, such as those triggered by infection or inflammation, can feed back into the brain, affecting mood and mental clarity. This dynamic, two-way traffic is the focus of a growing field known as psychoneural immunology, which explores how psychological, neural, and immune processes are intimately linked. At the molecular level, communication is orchestrated by a dazzling array of neurotransmitters and hormones. Neurotransmitters act quickly and locally, zipping across synapses to relay messages in thousandths of a second. Hormones, by contrast, travel more slowly, exerting effects that can last minutes, hours, or even days. While neurotransmitters often regulate moment-to-moment changes, such as shifting your attention or initiating a movement, hormones set the broader context, influencing energy levels, emotional tone, and the body's readiness to respond to stress or opportunity. Both forms of signaling are essential for the mind-body dialogue, and disruptions in either can have profound effects on health and behavior. One of the most striking recent discoveries is that these networks are not fixed; they can be tuned and modified by experience. Emerging evidence suggests that mind-body practices, such as meditation, yoga, or other forms of mental training, may influence the very genes that govern neural, immune, and endocrine function. Through a process called epigenetic modulation, certain practices can alter patterns of gene expression, potentially reshaping how the brain and body communicate. While the details are still being unraveled, this finding suggests a remarkable plasticity. The mind's activity can, over time, influence the biology that underlies it. The science of the mind-body connection, then, is a story of integration at every level, From brain circuits that entwine thought and action, to chemical messengers that link mood and physiology, to the dynamic interplay among nervous, endocrine, and immune systems. Each moment, your biology is alive with conversation, as neurons fire, hormones pulse, and immune cells patrol. The boundaries between mind and body blur not just in poetic metaphor, but in the very fabric of our anatomy and biochemistry. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes that caring for the mind means caring for the body, and vice versa, a truth written in the language of our cells. When we look beyond the intricate machinery of nerves, hormones, and immune cells, a compelling question emerges. How do our inner psychological states, our thoughts, moods, and feelings, shape our physical health? The answer, as modern science is beginning to reveal, is both fascinating and humbling. The mind and body are entwined in a complex dance, with emotions, stress, and mental well-being leaving lasting marks on our physical selves. This relationship is not abstract. It is grounded in a growing body of research linking the world of the psyche to the realities of disease, healing, and even how we experience pain. Consider the story of mental attitude, not as a vague notion of positive thinking, but as a force with measurable impact. Ellen Langer's research offers a striking example. Her studies have shown that mental attitude can influence physical health in ways that at first seem almost improbable. In carefully controlled experiments, people encouraged to adopt a younger mindset, treated as if they were physically younger than their years, demonstrated real improvements in health markers. Some even showed signs of reversing age-related decline. This phenomenon, often described as mind over matter, challenges us to rethink what is possible when it comes to the power of belief and perception. While spontaneous remissions and dramatic healing remain rare, the evidence suggests that our expectations and mental frameworks do not merely reside in our heads. They ripple outward, shaping physiological processes in the body. Not all psychological influences are so uplifting. The darker side of the mind-body relationship is perhaps most vividly illustrated in the science of stress and its impact on the heart. Large epidemiological studies have established a clear association between chronic psychological stress and an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. In one notable case control study, people who reported high levels of psychological stress were significantly more likely to develop heart disease than their less stressed peers. The story does not end with stress alone. Depression and anxiety, which often accompany chronic stress, have also been linked to a higher incidence of heart attacks and strokes. Recent research points to several mechanisms behind these findings. Stress-related brain activity, particularly in circuits responsible for threat detection and emotional regulation, can set off a cascade of physiological changes, increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, and persistent inflammation, all of which contribute to damage of the cardiovascular system over time. The overactive brain stress circuits, once a survival asset in the face of immediate danger, now seem to work against us in a world where threats are often psychological and unrelenting. When these circuits are chronically triggered, they keep the body's stress response turned on, flooding the system with hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over months and years, this ongoing activation does more than raise blood pressure. It can disrupt the delicate rhythms of the heart, stiffen blood vessels, and even promote the buildup of arterial plaque. As a result, the risk of heart disease rises, not because of a physical injury, but because of a mind locked in a state of alarm. The consequences of chronic stress reach far beyond the heart. Scientists have traced the pathways by which psychological states can influence the immune system. Positive emotions, for example, have been shown to boost immune function, making the body more resilient to infections and possibly reducing the risk of chronic disease. Conversely, negative emotions and persistent psychological distress can weaken immune defenses. The biological roots are many. Stress hormones dampen the production and activity of immune cells, while inflammatory processes meant to provide short-term protection can become chronic and damaging under the influence of ongoing psychological turmoil. The toll of stress is not limited to the immune system's ability to ward off germs. Chronic stress has also been shown to accelerate cellular aging. One key player in this story is telomerase, an enzyme that helps maintain the protective caps at the ends of our chromosomes, known as telomeres. When stress becomes a constant companion, cortisol levels rise and telomerase activity falls. Over time, telomeres shorten more rapidly, leaving cells more vulnerable to aging and disease. This link between psychological stress and cellular aging is more than metaphorical. It is a measurable biological process with implications for everything from immunity to longevity. The mind's influence over the body is perhaps nowhere more palpable than in the experience of pain. Chronic pain is a condition that blurs the boundaries between mind and body, and research reveals a bidirectional relationship between pain and psychological health. Depression and chronic pain often go hand in hand, sharing overlapping pathways in the brain. Neuroimaging studies have shown that the areas activated by emotional distress are strikingly similar to those involved in physical pain, suggesting that our psychological state can directly modulate how we perceive discomfort. But the relationship is not one way. Persistent pain can also disrupt emotional balance, fueling cycles of anxiety, rumination, and despair. Cognitive and emotional factors wield significant power over pain perception. When people are anxious, fearful, or catastrophizing, imagining the worst possible outcomes, their experience of pain intensifies. This is not simply a matter of attention or distraction. Chronic pain can actually alter brain circuitry, making it harder for individuals to regulate both their emotions and their sensory experience. Traumatic experiences and ongoing psychosocial stressors do more than make pain harder to bear. They can contribute to its development and persistence. The fear of pain itself can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, heightening sensitivity and making recovery more elusive. The relationship between mental and physical health, then, is not just theoretical or philosophical. It is empirical, observable, and deeply consequential. Studies routinely find high rates of psychiatric comorbidity in individuals with chronic physical illness, and vice versa. Depression and anxiety are especially prevalent among people suffering from ongoing pain, heart disease, or immune disorders. The two domains, mental and physical, do not merely coexist, they interact, each influencing the course and outcome of the other. This interplay is evident in the way mental health problems contribute to physical symptoms such as fatigue, muscle aches, or digestive issues, and how chronic illness can sap motivation, erode hope, and deepen psychological distress. Encouragingly, the relationship runs in both directions. Just as psychological distress can harm the body, interventions that promote mental well-being can yield tangible physical benefits. Physical activity, for instance, is not only good for muscles and bones, it is a powerful tool for improving mental health. Regular exercise has been shown to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, boost mood, and enhance cognitive function. Likewise, lifestyle modifications, such as establishing routines, fostering social connections, and ensuring proper sleep and nutrition, can strengthen both mind and body, creating a virtuous cycle of well-being. The scientific consensus is clear. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and the two are inseparable aspects of holistic well-being. When one falters, the other is likely to follow. The American Psychological Association and other leading organizations now advocate for this integrated perspective, urging healthcare providers and individuals alike to recognize the deep, reciprocal ties between mind and body. The old boundaries are dissolving, replaced by a vision of health that honors the full tapestry of human experience, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and biology, woven together in ways we are only beginning to understand. Ongoing research reminds us that caring for our minds is not a luxury or an afterthought, but a vital part of caring for our bodies. The stories we tell ourselves, the emotions we cultivate, and the connections we nurture are not ephemeral, they are part of the architecture of health itself. And while many mysteries remain, how beliefs translate into cellular change, what makes some individuals more resilient than others, the evidence so far is a call to action. In tending to our psychological well-being, we are tending, quite literally, to the very fabric of our physical lives. Understanding the science of the mind-body connection is more than an intellectual pursuit. It opens a doorway to practical, evidence-based ways to enhance our health and daily lives. Over the past several decades, researchers and clinicians have explored how we can deliberately harness this connection, not only to ease suffering, but also to foster resilience, clarity, and vitality. What emerges is a landscape of practices rooted in rigorous scientific study that invite us to become active participants in our own well-being. Among the most studied and widely adopted are mind-body practices such as mindfulness meditation, yoga, and various relaxation techniques. The National Institutes of Health and leading pain research organizations define these as interventions that use mental focus, controlled breathing, and intentional movement to influence physical processes and health outcomes. Their appeal is not merely philosophical. Across numerous trials and systematic reviews, these practices have demonstrated measurable benefits for both mind and body. Take mindfulness meditation, for example. This practice centers on bringing open, non-judgmental awareness to present moment experience, whether it is the rhythm of your breath, sensations in your body, or the flow of thoughts and feelings. A growing body of research shows that even brief periods of daily mindfulness practice can lead to significant reductions in stress, anxiety, and depressive symptoms. One large randomized study found that just 10 minutes of mindfulness each day was enough to boost well-being, ease symptoms of depression, and encourage healthier lifestyle choices. These improvements can persist with continued practice, supporting not only psychological health but also behavioral regulation, the ability to make choices that align with our values and long-term interests. What makes mindfulness so effective? Neuroscientific investigations provide part of the answer. Studies at institutions such as Harvard have found that mindfulness meditation may alter patterns of brain activity and even influence the structure of brain regions involved in emotion regulation, attention, and self-awareness. These neural changes are associated with reduced symptoms of depression, chronic pain, and anxiety. While the precise mechanisms are still being unraveled, evidence indicates that mindfulness training enhances the brain's capacity to regulate emotional and physiological responses to stress. Yoga, another widely practiced mind-body intervention, combines physical postures, breath control, and meditative focus. Scientific reviews reveal that yoga not only improves flexibility and strength, but also reduces pain, especially among people with chronic musculoskeletal conditions. Neuroimaging studies have shown that practices like yoga and tai chi can influence patterns of brain activation, supporting improvements in attention, mood, and cognitive performance. These findings are echoed in clinical settings, where yoga is used to help manage pain, insomnia, and symptoms of anxiety. Other mind-body practices, such as guided imagery, acupuncture, and breathwork, have also attracted scientific attention. For example, the technique known as the relaxation response, elicited through practices like deep breathing or progressive muscle relaxation, can lower physiological arousal, including heart rate and blood pressure. This shift toward a more balanced state has implications for managing stress-related disorders and may even support immune function. While the evidence for some practices remains preliminary, the overall trend is clear. Interventions that engage the mind can exert meaningful effects on the body. The clinical implications extend beyond individual well-being. In the management of chronic pain, for instance, mind-body interventions are increasingly recognized as important tools. Research from pain medicine organizations highlights that these techniques help interrupt the cycle of pain, distress, and disability by modifying how the brain processes discomfort. Practices like mindfulness meditation and cognitive behavioral strategies teach individuals to relate differently to pain, reducing its emotional sting and empowering people with skills to cope more effectively. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, stands as another pillar in the practical application of mind-body science. Grounded in decades of empirical research, CBT recognizes that thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations are interdependent. By helping individuals identify and modify unhelpful patterns of thinking and behavior, CBT supports lasting improvements in mental health. Studies consistently show its effectiveness in managing stress, anxiety, depression, and even certain physical symptoms. CBT's strength lies in its structured, skills-based approach, inviting people to become observers of their own mind-body processes and to experiment with new ways of responding to life's challenges. Therapists and clinicians are also integrating mind-body psychotherapy techniques for conditions such as depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. These approaches blend insights from neuroscience with practical exercises such as guided body scans, mindful movement, or breathwork to encourage self-awareness and self-regulation. While each therapeutic style has its nuances, the underlying message is consistent. By cultivating awareness of the present moment and adopting more adaptive patterns of thought and behavior, individuals can influence both their psychological and physical experience. Mindfulness and related practices do not require mystical belief or elaborate rituals. Many of the benefits are accessible through everyday exercises. The Mayo Clinic, for example, recommends simple mindfulness practices, such as paying careful attention to the sensations of eating, walking, or breathing as ways to ground oneself in the present and reduce the grip of worry or rumination. Research confirms that even these brief, informal exercises can have cumulative positive effects, especially when practiced regularly. Beyond symptom reduction, mind-body interventions can foster a deeper sense of agency and well-being. Studies show that mindfulness and meditation can improve immune responses, support better sleep, and enhance overall quality of life. These practices may also encourage people to make healthier choices, such as exercising, eating more mindfully, or seeking out social support, which further reinforce both mental and physical health. The effects are not limited to those experiencing illness or distress. Even healthy individuals report greater emotional balance, improved focus, and a heightened sense of connection with themselves and others. Of course, science continues to probe the boundaries and limitations of these approaches. Not every individual responds the same way, and no single practice is a panacea. The mechanisms by which mind-body interventions produce their effects are complex, involving changes at multiple levels, from neural circuitry to immune signaling to gene expression. Some questions remain open, such as how long-lasting these changes are, or how best to tailor interventions to individual needs. Yet the weight of evidence supports the conclusion that the mind and body are not isolated domains, but rather deeply entwined systems that can be influenced in intentional, beneficial ways. As mind-body medicine evolves, so too does the recognition that cultivating awareness, adopting adaptive mental habits, and caring for the body are not merely complementary, but essential aspects of optimal health. The practical implications are profound. By engaging with mind-body practices, even in small, consistent ways, people can tap into the inherent capacity for self-regulation, resilience, and well-being. The journey is ongoing, and the science continues to deepen, but the invitation is clear. The power to shape our health lies, in part, within our own mindful attention and daily choices.